Oh, I think we've run out of fuel. Let me see what this button does. Oh, sorry guys. Welcome to the episode 30 of Take It EV. 30! Sorry, I've run out of electricity. Had to plug in. So, let's talk about plug-in hybrids. Everyone's favorite subject. I just had... This is going to be off-the-cuff episodes just by myself. If you're a fan of those, welcome. If you're new, you perhaps want to skip this one and just go to one of my interview podcasts, which is the previous ones. Anyway, let's talk about plug-in hybrids. So, what is a plug-in hybrid? Plug-in hybrid is basically a hybrid of an ICE engine and a little electric engine with a little battery. But somebody just added a plug. The funny thing is, 8 years ago or so, when the Priuses, which were the sort of the prototypical hybrids out there, 10, 15 years ago on the roads, when they were sold quite in a lot of volumes in Eastern European countries, quite a lot of taxi drivers there actually would add a sort of an external charging circuitry to those cars and charge them overnight in their garages or whatever to save on fuel. And obviously that wasn't intended by the manufacturer, but it obviously worked. Fun fact is the Priuses as a car retain their value very well because of the low energy or fuel consumption, which obviously if you're a taxi driver, that's an amazing thing. I'm not sure if it's still the trend. I would have to check. I haven't actually prepared that for this episode, but I prepared other facts obviously. Anyway, hybrids. So let me take this out of the way, because this is something that people often get confused about. There's two types of hybrids in general. There's a serial hybrid, my favorite, which means that the ICE engine does not drive the wheels. It drives the generator, which then charges the battery, and then there's another motor that actually drives the wheels. Serial hybrids are, the most efficient type of hybrid, because you can tune the ICE engine to within certain RPMs, and that way it's only kind of consuming you know that your engine consumes the least amount of fuel per torque that it gives out. It's more efficient within, say, 1000 and 1500 RPM, and you can restrict that engine to just go work in that envelope, and also you can engineer everything around it to be around it. That's great, right? And then there's a parallel hybrid, which means basically, usually what happens is you've got one set of wheels, front or back, that are driven by electric motor, and then the other set of wheels are driven by the ICE engine. And either one of them could be turned on and turned off. The electric motor could be turned into a generator, which charges the battery, and so on and so forth. So just to give you an example, the parallel hybrid would be, in the UK, sort of, say, Mitsubishi Outlander, loved by everybody. Quite a popular hybrid. Phil Nash, my co-host, who hasn't been on the episode for a long time because he's busy, but he's got a Outlander, and in one of the previous episodes I've spoke to him about it, and spoiler alert, it's not a great pure electric hybrid. Anyway, the serial hybrids, surprise, because it's the most efficient one, companies such as Toyota and a couple of others, whenever you hear the self-charging hybrids, incredibly misleading marketing term, they're usually serial hybrids. Although it gets complicated. It's it's quite a clever solution from an engineering point of view, but it's not very green. It just lowers the consumption of the fuel, basically. Anyway, so we have our hybrids: serial, parallel, simple, right? You can either drive the wheels with the ICE engine directly or through the battery. And then somebody just said, and let's just put a plug on it. Great, nothing wrong with that. Again, let me just take another thing out of the way. I don't think people buying hybrids over pure ICE cars are bad, or we're not purists here. But what we do care about is the adoption of pure electric cars, or in my case, battery electric cars. I don't care much for hybrid. I don't care much for hydrogen. Let's leave that for another episode. But spoiler alert: hydrogen is not very efficient or green in the sort of production of it. Anyway, the full chain is what we look for, basically. Anyway, back to the plug-in hybrids. So that's the description of what the hybrid is, plug-in hybrid. Again, most plug-in hybrids, basically what happens is you go to the garage and you say, I like this car. The color is great. My wife likes the interior, or my husband likes the interior. I like people buy cars. I'm not trying to stereotype here, but people do buy cars for silly reasons. Like, they like the look of the wheels. They like the look of the car on the outside. They like the color. It's quite often, I like that color. Can I get that color? It's you'd be surprised. Anyway, somebody then says, oh yeah, but this is electric, and oh no, there's not enough charging points. Oh no, where am I going to charge it? To which that's usually the salesman obviously telling you all that, because you came to the garage without making your own mind up. And then he says, but I have this car who actually is. This is the best of both worlds. This is both electric and it's got an engine. So you can just, you can do it the way you do it now. As with anything in life, obviously, when you get the best of the both worlds, you get nothing that's best in both worlds. You get a compromise, right? And obviously compromises come in all sorts of shapes and forms. Again, listen to the episode with Phil where he described how his Outlander struggles when the battery goes flat. So such a person usually just drives off the lot and is happy that they have something that's green. And yeah, it is greener. It just lowers your emissions, but it's not an electric car. This is where this is going to be a personal gripe, but when plug-in hybrid doesn't contain the word electric vehicle. However, PHEV, which is the marketing term that somebody forced in onto the messaging, and on some cars it's actually the EV bit is actually larger, is kind of annoying me because they're not EVs. They could be EVs if you decided to just drive it on EVs, but in practice the sort of the real world range is not what you'd been promised. So I did a bit of I didn't want to be just talking to you from my own point of view, even though this is a podcast. You tuned in because you want to hear my point of view, obviously, and my way of interviewing other people. But today's episode is just me. So I've just Googled around, and I've been around the block a few times. I've driven a couple of plug-in hybrids as a sort of test, just to see what they'd be like. One of the figures I was trying to get is, the stated figure when you get the car sold to you. I'm talking about the pure EV range or electric range versus the real life. And surprise, surprise, because the battery's small, so therefore it's not as efficient as it would be if it was a pure electric car. Some sites claim, from sort of 60 to 70% the real world use range compared to what the manufacturers have stated, which is not too bad. I mean, I say it's not too bad. It's rubbish. Obviously, they should be saying what the real life range is. But I'll give you. This is from which is like a testing site in the UK, a subscription-based testing. But this is a freely available information. If you just Google which electric plug-in hybrid range, we have. I mean, this is actually not matching my information, but this is what they say. Mitsubishi Outlander, which I've mentioned, the stated claimed battery range is 33 miles. The real life is 31. I'm sure Phil would disagree. Oddly enough, according to them, the VW Golf GTE, it's 32 miles. This is a graph, so I can't see the actual, I'm just kind of reading through the microphone. It says it matches the stated claim, which is surprising. There's other. I think the worst one here is BMW 2 Series Active Tourer Hybrid. The stated claim is 25 miles, which is just terrible, and Tourer Hybrid is 17 miles. A real life range is 17 miles. It's just terrible. Like, all of them basically are off by sort of roughly 20%. And again, the ranges are terrible. Like the one that has the highest stated range is the plug-in hybrid Toyota Prius and Hyundai Ioniq plug-in hybrid, and the manufacturer stated range is 38 miles, and the real life mileage is sort of between 32 and 34. So not great. Another website that I found, I think it was Fleet News, which is the most recent kind of figure that I could find, it says just 61% less efficient in the real world use. But this is, I think they're talking about the fuel consumption, which is, again, what people care about at the end of the day, right? I had a stated sort of, I asked people on the podcast about it, on the podcast Twitter feed, which is @TakeItEV. It's plastered everywhere. If you look for Take It EV podcast on the Twitters, you'll find me with the logo. But basically, the bottom line is people are saying 20-25 miles is the sort of the range that they'd get. Nobody's actually so far ticked the 40 plus miles, which I'd be really surprised. I'm sure some of the newer ones do that. Anyway, so that's the hybrid. What hybrid is? It lowers your combined fuel intake. Yes, it is sometimes an electric car when you put it in pure electric mode, if you have control over it. Not all plug-in hybrid actually give you full control over it, because obviously you don't want to run out of charge in the middle of the motorway, and some of them actually don't do very well on the motorway. Surprise, surprise. What plug-in hybrid is not an electric car. Despite the fact that they're called PHEVs, they're not EVs. There's a reason why there's a PH in front of it, basically. And it just annoys me to no end when people say, "Oh yeah, I've got one of those." I can give you an example. I actually, speaking of that sort of a story, I've had people working on neighbour's house and commenting on our electric car back then, and on a Nissan Leaf, and said he just turned up in his big diesel van. He said, "Oh, I have one of these." I'm like, "Oh, which one do you have?" "Oh, I've got an Outlander." And I was like, "No, darling, you've got a hybrid. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that it's not a pure EV. It's great, But I'm just worried that it's a pure bias, obviously, but because I'm in the sort of the electric vehicle world, and I surround myself with people who are, usually on Twitter, I've engaged with loads of people there. Again, at Take It EV. I hear from loads of people who, anytime I fire any criticisms towards plug-in hybrids, that say, "Oh yeah, but it's a great stepping stone, and every electric mile counts, and all that." And this is all great, but I'm hearing from people who had that positive experience, and they did make the effort to buy their for their next car to be purely electric car. What I don't hear is the huge amount of people who don't do that because they either can't charge the car at home because they live in a flat, or they don't care. They just bought the car because they had tax incentives, or their local area required them to have a cleaner car to get into a certain zone that they wanted to drive into. And I hate to be cynical, but in practice, people are lazy and like that. It's just there's a lot of people who do that. And the longer I live, and I don't want to give you my life story, but I've had quite a few bad experiences in my life. I'm in sort of approaching my mid-40s, and people are just like that. And I have to be honest about it. We can't just be always kumbaya about everything in the world. So hybrids are not bad, but they're not electric cars. I'll be right back. Okie doke. Let's talk about some real life gripes that I have with hybrids. So what quite often happens is let's talk about charging infrastructure, shall we? So the charging infrastructure is there. It is growing rapidly. What is not happening is there isn't enough charging infrastructure, charging points, at least in the UK. I'm talking about my local kind of area in the world. There isn't enough charging out there for plug-in hybrids to use them on the go, because we're talking about plug-in hybrids, so let's just tie that into it. So what quite often happens is I turn up at the quite often, but in places where there's one or two chargers only, and there's a fuel crisis, say, like there was recently, you turn up at the charger and there's a plug-in hybrid plugged in. Owners nowhere to be seen. Quite few plug-in hybrids actually have a CCS or CHAdeMO port, which again I don't understand why. And the car has taken say 10 kilowatts of the 10 kilowatt hours of the power, but the car's been there for 30-40 minutes. In that time I could take 50-60 kilowatt hours, and those cars actually have way bigger batteries even than that. So I don't mind plug-in hybrids using public charging infrastructure as long as it's the destination chargers, the 7 kilowatt chargers. Basically, please don't block DC chargers. You've got a plug on the car, yes, great, but you haven't been given the cable. Just go and buy it. It's 90 quid. Seriously. Especially if you don't have a charger at home, just the 7 kilowatt hour posts, there's loads of them. They will cost you pennies, or they're quite often free at shopping centers, and you're gonna make people much happier. I am sick and tired of having to explain to plug-in hybrid owners that they shouldn't be using rapid chargers, because they always tell me, oh yeah, but it charges at 10, 15, 20 kilowatts at peak. Yes, great, but you're going to be here for half an hour or more, and you're going to get 30 miles out of it. I actually need the charge to actually get to my destinations. You don't. There's a reason why you bought a plug-in hybrid. With all my love, seriously, you bought a plug-in hybrid because you wanted to have the best of both worlds. Just that's the reality of it. I quite often hear, oh yeah, I've got a plug-in hybrid, but I've just only ever like filled the tank like 3 times in my life. Why did you buy it then? Seriously. You've spent all this time eking all that power, and you could have just bought yourself a used ice car and then take a taxi or a train the other times. You would have saved yourself so much money. So don't give me any of that. And garages, please just include a charging cable with a hybrid, please. You can get it for 70 quid, wholesale. I can just email me. I can send you a link, please. I'll make the manufacturer happy, and I'll make your customers happy. You just have to buy them in bulk. And if you're selling loads of hybrids, great. And if I can say something to the chargers and chargers, let me talk to your charger. No, I'm not a cloud. That's a terrible joke. Sorry. Let me talk to the charging companies and sort of owners of the charging networks. Please implement some sort of a mechanism that turns off the charging when it goes below, say, 10 kilowatts. That sort of output for sustained output. Measure the window. The prior, say, 2 minutes. And if the average is below 10 kilowatts, just turn it off. You're going to save yourself money because you usually charge people per the power delivered. You're going to get more happier customers that way, and you're going to discourage anybody who has a tiny little battery or wants to charge to 100%, because there's people like that out there as well still. You're just gonna make everybody much happier, and you're gonna make more money. It's a win. And always have a post or two next to the charger that actually has a 22 kilowatts 3-phase charging available, so that a plug-in hybrid your owner can actually charge. I personally go as far as saying don't sell or don't allow people with plug-in hybrids to use a rapid charging socket, especially if there's just one charger. If there's if there's 10 of them, if it's a service station and there's like 10, 20 of them, then go for it. But if it's just a single charger, trust me, you've lost a lot of business because people will turn away when they see a plug-in hybrid charging there. And the way the trends are going now for the next 2-3 years, there's going to be more plug-in hybrids on the road than pure charging cars, pure electric cars, sorry. And there's going to be, it's going to be much, like, the amount of sold plug-in hybrids on the road month by month compared to the BEVs is higher. So those people will be clogging up the infrastructure. It's just a reality. And by incentivizing them from using those chargers, we would improve it. We would improve the imaging, and just put a clear sign saying, if you're plug-in hybrids, they're real electric cars here. It's simple as that. I think it would help everybody. I'm not saying discourage people from using destination chargers. I'm just saying rapid chargers shouldn't be used by a plug-in hybrid owner. Again, you bought a car because you wanted to get the best of both worlds. You were afraid about infrastructure, whatever your reasons were. But you've made that purchase, and you need to use it within that frame. It's a bit silly to trying to explain to me that you're going to stop at a service station because you want to do 20-30 miles on electric. Charge at home, whatever. There's a reason why you bought that particular car. It's not fit for purpose if you're going to stop at rapids to go 30 miles a day on a rapid charger. It's not. That's just my gripe with it. I know people differ on this, but I'm going to quote let me rephrase what they say. I don't want to quote people verbatim, but in reality, a plug-in hybrid is the best, or you promised a plug-in hybrid to be the best of both worlds. Emission-free electric car running, but with an onboard petrol or diesel engine, which eliminates the need to, stop for long times at the service stations on your journeys. However, unless you can regularly recharge the battery and make use of its only electric range, you'll never get the claimed fuel economy. And mind you, you shouldn't buy a plug-in hybrid if you want to go electric. Just look for a second-hand electric car. Because I quite often hear from people, oh yeah, I would have bought an electric car, but it's super expensive. Look for a second-hand car. Chances are you've got more than one car in your family. Sadly, the way, especially the British public is going, is people have at least one car per member of the family who's 16 or older. And this has to change. But the chances are you have more than enough cars already, and you can replace one of them with purely electric car. And you can buy yourself a Nissan Leaf, BMW i3, Zoe, whatever it would be. It will cost you less than £10,000. And trust me, you're going to love it. You're going to save yourself a lot of money on petrol or diesel or whatever. And it's going to be a much better experience than you having plug-in hybrids. I hear from people all the time. I've got conservative members of the family who are super annoying. Basically, they're against all the values I cherish in life. Who bought themselves a plug-in hybrid and keep on telling me that no, I couldn't get a pure electric car. I can't go from Essex to Cornwall on one charge. I'm like, you're not going to drive? Oh yeah, but I'm a lorry driver. I'm used to driving 8 hours a day. At 60 miles an hour, mate, you could, and you still have to stop. People are just. I usually don't swear a lot, but people are full of shit. You didn't hear me say that. Anyway, that's my short episode. I'll come back with more episodes in the future. There's loads of things going on behind the scenes, but I had loads of scheduling mishaps in the past month or two. Bit of personal family issues to deal with, so I couldn't get on in front of the microphone or even schedule anything with people. So I'm sorry if nothing's coming up to your liking, but trust me, I am trying to create some great content. Again, my idea here behind the podcast is not to do it just for the sake of it and talk to you every week and sell you stuff. I'm trying to create something that will be listened to and kind of make you think, make you discover new things, and also be relevant in a year. Not necessarily this episode, but most of the interviews that I'm trying to conduct are kind of a bit more broad and optimistic. So if you've gotten this far, thank you for listening, and I'll see you in a short moment with hopefully an amazing interview. Thank you, guys.